Hello friends, today my video is about learning to be content with what you have. Let us start by looking at a verse in the book of Exodus chapter 20 verse 16. It says, "You shall not covet anything that belongs to your neighbor." Now, what is coveting? It is simply the uncontrolled desire to acquire. Well, the desire to acquire in itself is not bad, but that desire out of control is very bad and destructive. It is very hard in our culture to be content with what we have. We are constantly bombarded by marketing genius that shows us that we cannot be happy or content without their product. Always wanting more can have some effects in our lives. First of all, it can lead to fatigue. In our race to get more, we overwork, and it is always the materialistic race that gets us tired and exhausted. Our desire to acquire more runs us down. So in the book of Proverbs chapter 23 verse 4 it says, "Do not wear yourself out to be rich. Have the wisdom to show restraint." Always wanting more can also lead us to worry. The book of Ecclesiastes chapter 5 verse 12 says, "A working man can get a good night's sleep, but the rich man has so much that he stays awake worrying." So when our focus is things, we inevitably worry. The more you have to worry about it. For example, how am I going to protect it? How am I going to save it? Or how am I going to invest it? Thirdly, it can also lead to dissatisfaction. The book of Ecclesiastes chapter 5 verse 10 says, "You will never be satisfied if you long to be rich. You will never get all you want." So the thrill doesn't last. Sometimes when we get something new and we open the packaging, we think that, wow, this is amazing. But after a while, that thing is not amazing any longer because we get bored with things easily and we always want something new. Things doesn't give us permanent happiness. I wonder how many of you are still thrilled about what you got last Christmas. Or maybe you don't even remember what you got last Christmas. So, what is the antidote to coveting? The book of Philippians chapter 4 verse 12 says, "I have learned the secret of being content, whether living in plenty or in want." So contentment is something that you have to learn. It is not natural. I am not by nature a contented person, and neither are you. So it is not automatic and you have to learn to be content. Now I'm going to share with you 4 points on how we can learn to be content. The first one is resist comparing yourself to others, because comparing always leads to coveting. The book of 2 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 12 says, "We do not dare classify or compare ourselves. It is not wise." So how do you react when you see someone with a beautiful car? Do you say, "I wish I had that," or you're just happy that they got it? How do you react when you see someone with a nicer house or more beautiful furniture? One of the greatest lessons that we can learn is to admire without having to acquire. Because you don't have to own everything to be happy, and you cannot own everything. So you just need to learn how to admire without having to acquire. The book of 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 9 says, "When we long to be rich, we are a prey to temptation. We get trapped into all sorts of foolish and dangerous ambitions which will eventually plunge us into ruin." So things can control us. You can be possessed by your possessions if you do not watch it. Secondly, you need to rejoice in what you have. Always appreciate what you have and be grateful to God for it. The book of Ecclesiastes chapter 5 verse 19 says, "If God gives a man wealth and property, he should be grateful and enjoy what he has. It is a gift from God. He wants us to enjoy and be grateful for what you have. For everything that you have is a gift from God." Sometimes we get into the trap of thinking, "If I get this, I will be happy." Let me tell you that you are completely wrong, because happiness is not about getting what you want. Happiness is about enjoying what you have. The book of 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 17 says, "Command those who are rich in this present age not to be haughty, nor to trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God who gives us richly all things to enjoy. So God loves watching us enjoy what He has given us. Thirdly, you have to release what you have to help others. So what are you doing to help others? God doesn't just want to bless you for your own benefit. He wants you to help other people with it. The book of 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 17 to 19 says, "Tell those who are rich not to be proud and not to trust in their money, which will soon be gone. Tell them to use their money to do good, to give happily to those in need, always being ready to share with others whatever God has given them. By doing this, they will be storing up real treasures for themselves in heaven. It is the only safe investment for eternity. So let us give cheerfully. As the Bible itself tells us, there is more happiness in giving than receiving. Finally, refocus on what's going to last. Give your attention to permanent values. Reorganize your life around eternal priorities and what really matters. The book of 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 18 says, "We fix our attention not on the things that are seen, but on things that are unseen. What can be seen lasts forever for a time, but what cannot be seen lasts forever." Everything you see is temporary. Nothing that you see is going to last forever, because all possessions are temporary. What's going to last for eternity is your relationship with God. So the book of Luke chapter 12 verse 15 says, "A man's true life is not made up of the things he owns, no matter how rich he may be." Culture says, if you have a little bit, you are worth only a little bit. But that's so wrong, because the sacrifice of Jesus proves to us that we are worth a lot. To conclude, a life lived by covetousness is a life that leads to fatigue, worry, and dissatisfaction. And to break free from the bondage of the desire to acquire, we have to follow the following R's. That is, resist comparing ourselves to others, rejoice in what we have, release what we have to help others, and refocus on what's going to last. Friends, what's going to last forever is your soul. Jesus said, "What good is it to gain the whole world and lose your soul?" So think about it. God bless you all.